If you're a military, law enforcement, or trying to get into an elite unit, the run test can make or break you as part of the fitness test or the selection. Whether it's a 1.5 mile run, 2 mile or 5 mile run, you need more than random mileage. A strong benchmark is around 6 minute pace for 1.5 miles or 7 minute pace for 5 miles. In this video, I'm going to show you how to train for speed, endurance, and durability without breaking down your body. I'm Dr. Peralta, a physical therapist, run coach, and U.S. Marine veteran. And in addition to everyday runners who I help, over 40s, I also help tactical athletes who want to run faster and stay pain-free and ace their test. So most tactical athletes train too randomly. See, a lot of military and law enforcement candidates wait until the test is close before they start running seriously. They're like, okay, they scramble to prep like a month, 2 months out. They panic and run too much, too fast, too often. That's when shin splints, knee pain, hip pain, and back tightness show up. The problem usually is an effort. It's a lack of structure. And if you want to ace the run portion of the test and ace the test altogether, right, you need a plan to build speed, endurance, and durability, but also takes into account the other aspects of the test, right? Sometimes you want to be able to run under fatigue as well. So the 1.5 and 5 mile runs are a bit different. See, the 1.5 mile run is more speed based and common in law enforcement and some military testing as well. The 5 mile run is more endurance based and is used in some other units like the Army Rangers for their fitness standards. A 6 minute pace for 1.5 mile runs requires speed and pain tolerance, right? To be able to really build up that lactic acid and tolerate that. While a 7 minute pace for 5 miles also requires aerobic endurance, also fatigue resistance, threshold fitness, and discipline, pacing discipline, so you don't burn out. Both tests require smart running, strength training, mobility, recovery, and consistency, right? Because it's not just about the running alone. Obviously, you want to be well-rounded to pass other portions of the fitness test, but also to improve your running performance as well. Because if you want to be a faster runner, it also pays to be a stronger runner, right? Making yourself stronger makes the run also easier. It's not just random exercise, not just random strength for random fitness. All right. So if you want a free guide on how to run faster without fewer junk miles while building strength and durability, or having structure, more clear cut plan, join my free school community for runners and your tactical athletes, the Running Pain Free School Community, a link in the description. So test your baseline, right? Before you start training, test where you're at right now. Whether you're training for a 1.5 mile run or a 5 mile run, right? Use a course that kind of mimics where you're going to be tested at, whether it's a track, a flat measured course, a trail. Again, you want to pace yourself. You don't want to blow up your early for both distances, whether it's the 1.5 mile or the 5 mile. You want to pace yourself so you complete the whole thing at a comfortably hard pace, right? Don't make it too easy, but don't run so fast that you gas out in the first, 5 minutes of the run. So track your time, your average pace, your heart rate, if you use it, and how you felt, right? Retest every 6 to 8 weeks so you can measure your progress instead of guessing, right? You want to have a clear baseline. Then as far as the programming, right? You don't have to run every day of the week. This is another common misconception that you have to run every day of the week to improve your run time. In fact, you could get better with just running 3 days a week, right? And I recommend 3 quality runs. You're not doing random workouts. I recommend 1 speed workout or track repeats or intervals, a tempo run or threshold workout, and then a long run or, to build up your aerobic base, your aerobic endurance. This gives you enough running stimulus while leaving room for strength, rucking, swimming, calisthenics, and recovery, right? Because you want to be well-rounded. You don't want to just be a one-trick pony and then, work on the run and ignore other aspects or put yourself at risk for injury or muscle imbalances because you just, ran too much or overuse injuries. And some common overuse injuries, shin splints, runner's knees, T-band syndrome, Achilles tendonitis, and the risk increases as you get older. So if you're like an older candidate, right, well, maybe you're in your 30s or your 40s and you're trying to, pass these elite units, now you even have to worry more about longevity and injury prevention. That's why it pays to be smart with your health and not just, do random workouts all the time. And then you also want to build speed with intervals. So when it comes to building actually your top end speed, we're going to go break down the different one workouts. So the first workout I recommend is the speed workout. So for this is typically repeats, track repeats or intervals. You also do it on treadmill to build up your VO2 max, to build up your essentially your max running speed here for the 1 mile, the 1.5 mile, the 5 mile. So you could use workouts like repeat 400 meters, repeat 800 meters. There's a quarter mile, half mile. You can do repeat 1,000 meter. And similar workouts could also be done for the 5 mile prep as well. You may vary the distances, of course. So you may do a more sets, right? So you might do like 10 by or even 20 by 400 meters for prepping for a 5 mile fitness test there versus maybe only doing 10 by a quarter mile repeats. But don't sprint the first rep and die later, right? First pace yourself. Like if you're new to interval training, maybe start by 6 by 400 meters and then go to 8 by 400 and so forth, right? If you want to progress, don't just jump to the most intense speed workout. Start easy, then build up, especially if you're new to interval training, you haven't done intervals in a while, maybe there's been maybe you've waited a year or something, there's been a long gap. So gradually build up your interval fitness, because this is where a lot of people do get hurt when they try to do repeat sprint intervals, and then boom, there goes an Achilles tendon. It happened to me a while back. I was doing repeat track intervals and without going cold, and that's why it pays to do warming up and making sure you properly pace yourself. The next quality workout recommends the threshold of the tempo run. This is where it teaches you to build your pace without redlining. For the 1.5 mile run prep, do like a 20-minute tempo or 3 by 1 mile. For 5 mile prep, maybe 3 to 5 mile tempo. That is where you run 30 to 45 minutes at a continuous steady state pace. Maybe do 2 by 2 miles or 3 by 2 miles. And these type of workouts are one of the most important workouts for holding pace under fatigue. If you fall apart halfway through your test, you probably need more threshold work, right? More time at the steady state, comfortably hard pace. And then you also want to build up your endurance with long runs. This is where you're going for like an easy pace, but for long duration. Long runs build the aerobic base that keeps you from fading late. For the 1.5 mile run, your long run might just be 4 to 7 miles. For the 5 mile prep, your long run might be 7 to 10 miles. Most long runs should be easy and controlled. As you improve, you can use progression long runs where you finish the last third faster. Or you can split it up into different thirds as well. That's what I like, kind of easy, somewhat easy, or moderate, and then go a little faster the last third as you get more advanced and get more comfortable with long runs. And then you want to strength train like a tactical athlete, right? So you can't just do random workouts. So sometimes people are like, I'm just going to do these random workouts that I saw from this tactical influencer, this CrossFitter, etc. And those things can work. Of course, CrossFit can be a viable training model. But the thing is, sometimes people do them too randomly without structure, just squeezing in, I'm going to take a workout from this modality, CrossFit here, powerlifting one day, Olympic lifting another day. You want to have a plan. You want to have a clear structure. You just can't be randomly pulling workouts, a random workout of the day. That's kind of my issue when people do whatever modality. I don't want to, just single one out, but people will randomly pick out different strength workouts, more like general fitness, right? If you're just training for general fitness, you don't care about the results, then keep winging it, keep dabbling. But if you're a professional, you want to have structure, you want to actually do strength training that actually builds up your weaknesses and also serves you so you become faster, stronger, helps you ace different portions of your fitness tests. So when it comes to strength training, right, I do things especially for lower body development, squats, deadlifts, lunges, split squats, step-ups, calf raises, and I am giving like a general platter of different exercises. But again, you want to address your weak links. So you may notice that your glutes are particularly weak, or your hamstrings, or your quad. So then you have to also do some focused strength training for your weak links. So if you notice that your glutes are weak, then do some focused work on your glutes. And additionally, you also want to do calisthenics. A lot of these fitness tests require you to do a certain amount of push-ups in a certain amount of time, a certain amount of sit-ups, or a certain amount of pull-ups, right? So if your test requires them, also make sure you're training these movements. It's a skill. You want to train the skill of doing these moves, because these calisthenic movements are also skills. And the thing is, don't shy away from doing hamstring training. Sometimes people will just do calisthenics and ignore heavy lifting. Make sure you're also doing heavy lifting as well, especially if your testing requires you having to put on a ruck or carry equipment or do a buddy drag, etc. So heavy strength training also builds up power and injury resilience. So calisthenics builds that muscular endurance for tactical fitness test, but you want both. You want to have muscular endurance, explosive strength, and heavy lifting or maximal strength as well. All different types of strength attributes. Here's the Army Ranger fitness test. You can see they require, I'm going to put the recommended scores, because there's a minimum scores, but I say, hey, if you want to ace a test, aim for, try to beat the standard, beat the minimum, right? So the recommended score is like 80 plus push-ups in 2 minutes, 80 plus sit-ups in 2 minutes, 12 plus pull-ups, sub 13-minute 2-mile run, a 35-minute 5-mile run, 60-mile ruck with the 65-pound pack, in 16 miles for 4 to 5 hours. And then a 15-meter swim, that pass or fail. But you can see that you always go for the recommended, not just the minimum. Like really try to ace the test, right? Don't just be satisfied with the bare minimum. And then you also want to do cross-training. So cross-training should match the demands of your goal, especially if you're a tactical athlete, right? Again, military, law enforcement. So great option is weighted walking, rucking, putting on your weighted vest, your rucksack, swimming, biking, rowing, incline walking, hiking. So rucking is really good because it builds time on your feet. And a lot of the fitness tests also require to be able to, ruck run or ruck run walk with for a certain amount of time, right? Like the Army, the Ranger selection. So it's going to help also build up your aerobic endurance. And even if rucking's not part of your test, let's say there's law enforcement and rucking is not part of the fitness test, it still builds up your endurance. Even if you do weighted walking with a weighted vest, it still improves your running performance. So at least 2 days a week, you're doing cross training, or even a third day of week if it's also part of your testing. Let's say rucking's part of the test, I recommend doing even 3 days a week. And then cross training helps you build up your fitness without more pounding from extra running. And the thing is, you might be thinking, when do I get to rest? It seems like a lot of training. The thing is, you could train 6 days a week and have 1 full day of rest. Because what it is, you might do combined workouts. You might do 3 days of running, 3 days of cross training and strength training. So you could combine the strength training and the cross training consecutively. They could be paired like a morning evening session or back to back for like an hour long session or hour and a half long session, what have you, right? So you don't have to worry that, you'll never get to rest. You do get to have a rest day. It's fine. You could train 6 days a week and get all the stuff done: the cross training, the running, the strength training. And I also recommend mobility training, right? So if you have tight or stiff areas, do daily mobility, at least 10 minutes per day for your tight or stiff areas. Maybe it's your ankles or your hips are tight. Just address whatever the tight or stiff areas are. If you're unsure, then obviously work with someone to help you. So pace the test correctly. So when it comes to actually doing the test, right, make sure you pace yourself with a 1.5 mile run. Don't sprint the first lap and fade away. If your goal is 9 minutes, right, that's about 130 per every 400 meters, per every quarter mile. So you make sure you pace yourself appropriately and then test yourself before your actual test date. For the 5 mile run, don't treat it like a long sprint. If your goal is 35 minutes, that's about 7 minutes per mile. Stay controlled, settle into the pace, and complete it hard. So you complete, at the last mile of the 5 mile run, you're able to finish strong at the end. All right, but make sure you're comfortably hard and you're within your pace targets. So what happens when you train this way? You stop guessing and start training the qualities that test actually demands. You build the speed for the 1.5 mile run, or you build the endurance and threshold fitness for the 5 mile run, and you become stronger, more durable, and less likely to break down during your prep. You show up for the test with confidence instead of hoping your body holds up. So I actually helped my brother improve his Army fitness test. We built his strength, cleaned up his running structure, and trained with purpose. He eventually ran a sub 35 minute for the 5 mile run. And that confidence carried over into his unit fitness test and his overall performance. I've also helped several others, both military and law enforcement, trained for and passed fitness tests that involves, improving the run time. Because for a lot of candidates, the run is like the hardest portion for them, and the run is also a lot of them get injured. A lot of folks get injured on the run portion because a lot of people don't realize running is a high impact activity. Every time your foot hits the ground, it's 2 to 3 times your body weight. So if your leg's not strong enough to handle the demand of running, if you don't have the adequate mobility, you could break down. Especially if you're an older candidate, maybe when you're over 35 and you're 40s, you could be at risk of your tendons breaking down, tendon tear, meniscus tear, IT band, etc. That's why it pays to be smart and think about the long game instead of just, I'm just going to train for the test and then disappear for the rest of the year. You want to stay ready, so when the actual test comes, you're already ready to go, right? You're not scrambling to prepare a month or 2 months out. You're training year round, keeping yourself strong, keeping yourself mobile, keeping yourself in shape. You're not like scrambling to the last minute. And if you're like brand new, or you're just starting to get into your career or your journey, give yourself some time to actually really prepare. Give yourself 6 months, or give yourself a whole year if possible, right? Can you train in 3 to 4 months? For sure. But the more time you have to prepare, the better off you will be when it comes time to take the test. So if you're military, law enforcement, or a tactical athlete trying to run faster for your fitness test, I can help. I currently have a few spots open for one-to-one coaching. We could build a custom plan, whether your goal is to run a faster 1.5 mile run or the 5 mile run, or improve your rucking time or strength. And if you're curious, there's a link to apply in the description. First come, first served. So some final lessons: the run test is not just cardio; it's a measure of preparation, right? These run tests, they reward speed, endurance, aerobic power, and discipline. Strength training, rucking, mobility, and recovery are what keeps you durable. Don't just chase the minimum; build a body that can perform under pressure. And if you want to ace your fitness tests, and including, make the ace the run portion as well, stop just doing random workouts. Stop dabbling in your running. Stop winging it. Train with structure. Train like a professional. Build speed, build durability, and show up ready to perform when it matters. If you found this useful, hit the like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.